Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're welcoming back to the show Kelvin Boyette, who I'm proud to say is our newest author in our best-selling Mission Matters Business Leaders book series. He's also the president and CEO over at Latitude Aero. Hey, first off, I just want to say, Kelvin, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. It's great to be back.
Man, so we've been on this journey with each other to finally publishing the book for quite some time now. I feel like it's been at least a year. I mean, time flies whenever you're putting together a project and doing promo and everything else that goes with publishing a book. Never easy, but glad to say that we made it to, I don't think it's the finish line. It's the beginning of the process, which is now the book's out, now the book's live. What do you do? So I'm excited to get into your content today. So learning to pivot, and you share some stories in that I'm definitely going to have you speak on. But you already know how this works. We'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Kelvin, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Kelvin, what mission matters to you?
Yeah, the biggest mission for me is to, just I've accomplished part of that is to have my own business, do things a little different than the rest, to have employees who we treat like family and get the job done, but get the job done just a different way. We have fun, we work hard, we play hard, we have fun doing it.
Hmm. So when I look at, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, love bringing mission-based individuals and entrepreneurs on the show to share, how they do what they do, why they do it, and really like how they're contributing back to not just to society, but marketplace too, and how we all rise together. So love having you back on the show because I want to get into this content. So I guess when I think about the business and when I think about what you've managed to build with your dedicated team, of course, I mean, I think about the pivots, the additions, all the different things you did. I think maybe just to get this conversation kicked off, maybe take us back to some of the early days and how even part of this business came to being in its current form. So thinking about like what you wrote about in the in the book. So Luminex going bankrupt, like all these other things. Like, where do you want to start with this?
Start from, back in my days at a very large commercial MRO here in Greensboro. Things were going good. I just started having to commute to Asia on a regular basis with a wife, 4 kids at home. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Part of my job there was to write white papers on potential new business ventures. And the one that ultimately kept getting rejected at the board level at our Asian headquarters was the one I actually felt the most passionate about. So saw the writing on the wall, and what became that white paper became the business plan to Latitude Aero. I was very, very blessed to find two gentlemen in Greenville, South Carolina, that were looking to invest in owner-operator businesses. Was able to get some early seed stage funding, started with myself and one other employee in 2015. Even when COVID started in by 2020, we still only had 7 employees.
Wow.
And changes in our economy, changes in the world. Yeah, I think last time we talked, I only had 24 employees. Today we're at 35.
Wow.
We're working on a capacity plan. As soon as this interview's over, I think we need to be to as many as 60 employees by September, October. So the last 2 years have been very good to us.
It's an amazing story, and I don't want to glance over COVID, because you shared this because obviously everybody listening or watching this, they maybe have their own story with COVID, and kind of during that time, or just in general. I mean, it could be that would happens to be our most recent thing, but before that there was a tech wreck, there was a housing crisis. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Like, there's always some type of crisis that's going to happen that affects different companies.
7, 8 was horrible for aviation.
Yeah.
So it's cyclical. There's always going to be a financial issue. Generally, every 7 to 10 years, somehow we make sure it happens.
And so one of your pivots, and this is one of the other things you write about in the book that I found interesting, is you were like, we had to find a way to, I'm paraphrasing, but to keep everyone busy, keep, revenue coming in. At one point you were doing some cleaning, I think it was buses or something like that off the top of my head. Like how did you navigate through those waters?
Yeah, our economic region here in North Carolina collectively is called a triad. It's three cities: Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point primarily. And we have a bus system that connects the city bus systems of each city called PART, Piedmont Area Rapid Transit. Their maintenance depot is 1 mile from the shop. When most companies were laying off and dropping back and retreating, we never let anyone go. We found a way. We did send everyone home for 2 weeks for me to figure it out with pay. And we started cleaning and sanitizing the city regional buses for
Man.
6 to 8 weeks just to keep our head above water. So I never set out to open a bus cleaning company.
Hmm.
But at that time, I had seven. The way I look at it is not only do I have to run a business, I'm also responsible for paying at that time seven other mortgages,
Yeah.
and we had to figure something out. And I wasn't gonna lay anyone off. I just had to figure it out. And one night, it's how the best ideas happen. I was laying in bed and I said, "Yeah, I wonder what they're doing with the city buses." And I made a
Wow.
call, and within 48 hours, we were sanitizing and cleaning city buses. It wasn't glamorous. It sure wasn't sexy, but it kept the business afloat until some things started shifting around and
Hmm.
the aviation community started shifting a little bit. And I was able to see a trend where I believe we touched on last time:
Hmm.
intercompany airlines, all first class travel. Before in 2018, 19, any big university that you see play on ESPN, they usually chartered aircraft to athletic events,
Hmm.
the Alabamas, Auburns, et cetera, of the world. But what happened is the small universities started chartering to make sure their basketball and football
Hmm.
teams got there without having to go through the main airports. So it forced where I did undergrad, Elon University, it forced the
Hmm.
Woffords of the world, the small schools, into then chartering. And a local airline capitalized on that business. And so 2020, we ended up doing 43 airplanes that were never anywhere in the business plan for the airline, Swift, now called Aero. And the NCAA charter business is what got them through 2020, 21. And at the end of
Hmm.
2019, if you'd have told me we were going to convert 737s into all first class seats for small universities to use to fly their basketball teams to an athletic event, I would have told you were crazy. So that was another pivot that we had to make, in that we saw an opportunity and we were small enough. We pivot
Hmm.
fast. We don't have the overhead and the administrative burden of a Fortune 500 company. It's me and some trusted long-term employees, and we'll sit in my office, and this idea got us through. And by the end
Yeah.
of 2021, we had 20 employees. So we doubled size in 2020 and 2021. And then we
Yeah.
were fortunate enough to pivot again towards some of the mainline carriers that you can name off the top of your head. And we've doubled again. So we've doubled year over year for 5 consecutive years. And not a single way we doubled business was in any of my business plans when I started that year. And you do your nice spreadsheet and you think everything's going to be
Oh
rose.
my gosh.
Yeah. So not a single large contract that we have signed has ever been in the business plan.
Yeah, and I and as I kinda read and witness, your story, like, every time we talk, new things that are happening, new changes, I mean, and I think about, like, I look back at Mission Matters and kind of how we grew, and originally, we were just, we were all publishing, and then when COVID hit and all this, like, our publishing business kinda slowed up a bit, and myself and the other co-founder, Shrag, were thinking about, "Man, what else can we do, like, to make sure that everything, keeps going?" we looked at what our clientele were asking us for, and it was like, launching podcasts. They wanted help doing what we do, like producing and distributing media. And that was Kelvin, that was, I mean, now we're known for it, but that was not on the business plan.
Yeah.
I had no genius or thought, or I didn't even know anybody else wanted to launch something like that. But now, we're 150 plus shows later that we've launched, and all of that was just being open to and talking to and, consulting with the individuals that are your, trusted employees, and looking at what you have to work with. Like when I was reading through the chapter, and I'm like, what? They went from aviation to bus. I'm like, that was nowhere near on the agenda, I'm sure. And when I think about like all of the other, I mean, I did probably 1,000 interviews, if not more, during COVID, and listening to how other business owners and manufacturers where, they went from manufacturing something to PPC or all these other things. And it's like, hey, we have the capability to do it. What would be your advice to, because there's going to be some business owners and some entrepreneurs out there that are watching this, that maybe they're in the middle of figuring it out, and they're in the middle in that pivot moment. Like what's gotten you through that? Because there's one other thing that I'll just kind of, as before I kind of let you talk. I mean, in the book you also write about, like, looking at the news, and all of a sudden there's a trade embargo, right? Russia declared war, and you have this huge contract, a multi-million-dollar contract that all of a sudden can't be done. I'm like, when I think about your grit and what you're able to navigate and still grow your business through these things, I'm like, man. And I know it's not just yourself. I know you have a great executive team and a great team, but like, what would be your advice to those that are kind of in the middle of that pivot? Like, what gets you through?
Well, something you just touched on is just listen. Surround yourself with people smarter than you, and don't be afraid to listen to them. You're not going to ever solve anything on your own. Potential customers, listen to people in the market.
Yeah.
Listen to your gut. But you just have to ask questions, be willing to ask the questions, and listen. Someone has a problem. And if someone has a pain, you can't solve a problem unless you know what that pain is. You don't know what that pain is until you ask questions and you listen to the responses, and you dwell down into what is the root cause of the problem and how can you solve that problem.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes maybe when you're listening, if that doesn't, like, what if the answer doesn't come to you? What do you do then? Like, what do you start thinking about?
The wheels start turning. I just start
Yeah.
looking at it. I don't get tunnel vision right off the bat. I
Mm-mm.
still use a whiteboard. I have, after 7 years of trying, converted to iPad notes,
Yeah.
but I still keep a tablet. I keep a whiteboard in my office, and I
Mm.
brainstorm multiple ideas and multiple angles. Well, if we look at it this way, we leave bucket 2 and 3 out. So we just
Mm.
try to look at the if I hear that there may be a problem or there may be an
Mhm.
opportunity, I try to look at it from 360 degrees to how can I fit in this puzzle to solve the problem. And sometimes
Mm.
it's okay to say, you know what, I don't fit. It's
Yeah.
it's never with me a no for no. It's a no for now. It's never a no forever. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm not afraid to tell people, that's really not the best for me right now. But I always try to get at least one piece of the puzzle in the game.
Yeah.
And then usually you claw, and it's just hard work and quality product and quality team members, and you gotta have to deliver your products on time. You earn more business.
Mm.
The root thing is, if I hadn't listened to one of my largest customers right now, is a very prestigious U.S. mainline carrier. They had one problem, we solved it. Then we got two problems. We solved
Yeah.
two, then we got four problems. So it's just always a little bit of a pivot to figure out what that next problem is and how to solve the next problem,
Mm.
because that next issue, it probably isn't related to the current issue. And if
Mhm.
I didn't ask questions, if I didn't listen to their responses, if I didn't truly hear what they had to say, and how I could help them, then this year we'll do over 143 aircraft just for one
Wow.
carrier.
That's absolutely amazing, and I think that I call it, by the way, I call it my wish list. Like, I put stuff on my wish list. I'm like, "Man, I would love to do that," especially being in media. Like, there's so many ideas and this and that, even if you just think about the amount of softwares and And things move fast in media, obviously, and I'm like, oh man, that's on the wish list. All right, I understand we should be doing this and that. We're gonna put that one on the wish list for this moment, and we're gonna come back to it. And it's fun though, like over
Yeah, I
time, how
mean,
sometimes it circles back. Sometimes these ideas come back and you're like, oh, it's time.
yeah, as an entrepreneur yourself, you think when you come up with a business idea, you come up with a business plan, you go from A to B and it's a straight line.
Hmm.
And people don't realize that it really looks like a plate of spaghetti how to get there. It's
Hmm.
all a crooked path.
Yeah. I want to talk about maybe some of the expansion a little bit more specifically, and the capabilities that you're going to, because I feel like, and I don't know you, so you correct me if I'm wrong, when you first went in this business, like your vision where it was then versus now, I mean, based on some of the acquisitions you made, some of the other things, like you're really separating yourself from the industry and your niche and your capabilities. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that and how the vision's grown?
Yeah. So what we touched on a little bit last time was now we're at 80. We've delivered 87,000 seats since I started this company. We've never been late. We've never had a quality rejection. So we've
Yep.
built our reputation on that. Also, in the last 3 years, 5 of my biggest competitors are no longer in business.
Hmm.
So that's globally. So what that has opened up is we are currently examining. There's only one of me, so I can only do one at a time for
Yep.
sanity reasons. But we are looking at another U.S. location, preferably in
Mhm.
Florida in the Melbourne to Miami corridor. The large percentage of the aircraft maintenance in the United States is conducted in the state of Florida
Mm.
because they also attract, because of the location and current airline routes, they attract a lot of business out of South America as well.
Mm.
Second location is Ireland. Ireland is very keen and at the top 3 of our list because most commercial aircraft, a lot of people don't realize this, but they're leased. They're not owned by the
Mm.
airline whose livery is painted on the outside.
Mm.
I believe 13 or 14 of the top 15 leasing companies in the world, for tax
Mm.
reasons, are headquartered in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so being in Ireland near the decision makers is very key, even if it's just a sales office.
Mm.
Third location is the Middle East. We have had a lot of meetings in Bahrain with the government. The
Mhm.
U.S. Department of Commerce sponsored us on a trade mission to go over there
Mm.
to help line up business. So we are looking at Florida, at Ireland to cover Europe, and Bahrain as well to cover the Middle East. We're still small enough, we can't do all 3 at once,
Mhm.
but we will be opening a second location more than likely the end of 2023, first quarter
Mhm.
2024.
Yeah, and looking at your expansion, and not just the expansion of the company, but also just of the capabilities and the services you've offered. So I don't know if it exactly started with seats. I know that's what we've talked a lot about, but now side panels. I mean, a lot of these other things that you're doing in the cabin overall, which kind of goes back to your roots and kind of some of the origin and design that you were a part of in the first place, right?
Yeah, so we started off as just a dream to install in-flight entertainment, the TV screens and power outlets,
Oh,
USB
that's
outlets.
right. It even goes further back than that.
Yeah,
I remember now. Yeah.
so we started off just to modify seats with technology.
Yeah.
Then our biggest customer there went bankrupt that we were doing retrofit services for. So then we pivoted to just cleaning and refurbishing seats.
Mhm.
We found a little niche there. You touched on another setback. We lost a $4.3 million contract when
Ah.
Russia invaded the Ukraine. We thought we were set for 83 airplanes for a year and a half, and then
Mm.
in one push of a button, literally,
Yeah.
that business went away. So we stayed with the core competency we had built. In 2020, we acquired the assets of a division of my former employer out of California and moved it to North Carolina. That got us into the machine shop business. So we started making parts and just odd widgets for other seat manufacturers. And then in the past 6 months, since we spoke last, a very large company in the United States decided to close their interiors division. So
Mm.
we were able to acquire the assets to get into the sidewall business. So now we're doing the seats. We'll be able to do the sidewalls. Basically, they're covered in a laminate like wallpaper.
Yeah.
We bought the equipment that can strip the old laminate off, put new laminate on. Before I had power ran to the equipment, we had POs for 83 airplanes. So that's 18 months worth of business. It added to the stress level a little bit because the first airplane has to be delivered the end of July and the machines didn't have power till the 1st of June. But what that's led to is the vision to be the only company in the world that can do, if you're a passenger, Adam, and you sit in an airplane and you can see it, we want to be able to refurbish it by 2025. So we got into the
Wow.
seats. That's the logical entry point. Next is the sidewalls. By adding a little equipment, automotive style paint and sanding booths, by 2024, we'll be able to do the overhead bins. And then with a little bit of CapEx, we'll be able to get into the PSUs where your lights and air vents are, where the oxygen masks drop from. And we'll be able to get into monuments, the walls in front of the row one, lavatories, galleys. And by 2025, I'd like to get into the flooring and carpet tile business that will allow us literally to be able to do everything in the aircraft cabin after the cockpit door. That'll allow any airplane,
Wow.
big or small, to will be a one vendor, one PO solution. So they can just come to us when the airplane goes into maintenance for 30 to 60 to 90 days. When they get the airplane back, the maintenance shop has done the physical maintenance labor and all the
Mhm.
maintenance tasks, but we provided them an entire new cabin. So you as a passenger, the airplane may be 20 years old, but
Mm.
the interior is going to look 2023.
It's a great story, and when I think about just overall what you've been able to accomplish and how the vision has grown and, from what you just mentioned, the original and just installing entertainment, retrofitting to now, at some point being able to, in the next couple of years, ideally, being able to do anything behind the cockpit, like that's amazing. And as the company's growing, it continues now these international locations that you kind of have on the horizon and on the map. It's a great story, one that I love bringing to the audience. And what I do love about this, and not that you had to go through it, of course, but it's more so from the standpoint of for people that are watching to understand that if they're going through something, whether it's a good time or a bad time, really, it's not permanent. It's not like something else is coming. Anybody that's been an entrepreneur for a while know something else is coming.
Yeah, my 3-year Facebook memory just a couple of weeks ago was a picture of me and 7 of the team members here, literally on a park bus cleaning the park bus. And so if you'd have told me while we were cleaning the bus in the pouring rain that day that we'd be where we are in 2023, once again, I'd have told you were nuts.
That's funny. I want to switch to the book for a moment or two here. So, thinking about the book overall, I'm just curious. A lot of different formats so that you can deliver a message in. So there's going to be a lot of people that read this. We're very fortunate that we print a lot of books. What are some of the takeaways that you hope, or things that your readers will take away from after they kind of dive into your story?
Yeah, I think specifically on the pivoting thing is don't get discouraged when it doesn't go as planned, because I can guarantee you, as an entrepreneur, that your best laid plans, none of it will happen the way you lay it out. So don't get discouraged. Keep clawing. If it's really what you want to do, you'll figure out a way. But don't get discouraged and don't get beat down. Don't be afraid to change and modify your plan, and you may still get to the exact same end result, or you may pivot enough to be successful in a path that you never dreamed of.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I completely agree with it, by the way. When I think about, I mean, I started out in finance, financial advisor. The way Mission Matters even started was it was just it was a holding company for a book I wrote, and that was it. I thought I was just gonna continue to stay down that path. I mean, a 14-year career was really hard to make that change. I didn't have to. Nobody was forcing me to. I had a very stable, role, all that other good stuff, but making that pivot, I mean, it's tricky. It could be hard. It definitely tests you. But now looking back, as I see, the opportunity that I've had to, and the privilege to help others tell their story, and to have these types of conversations for hopefully other people to benefit as well, not just myself. I like to say my job is I'm a free receiver of consulting, and I like to and warning everyone else that goes down that entrepreneur path. Like that's one of my roles,
Yeah,
right?
just don't give up. I mean, if it's truly a passion you want, don't give up. Don't be afraid to, take a little fork in the road to get
Yeah.
to your end game.
Awesome. Well, Kelvin, as always, man, it's great having you on the show. I'm glad and happy that you made some time for us. I know you're a busy, busy guy, and we're just getting started on promoting this book. So for everybody watching this, we'll of course put links in the show notes and whatnot so that you can pick up a copy. We just kind of tip of the iceberg on the entire book, but and definitely want you to grab a copy. But that being said, Kelvin, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the company?
Next is we've added some key personnel to the executive suite to assist in the day-to-day operation of the new expansion and opportunities. But what's next is trying to figure out the plan and which of the three locations we're targeting for expansion, which is going to be the best fit to launch properly. We have business available to us in each location, but which is going to be the first to pop, who's going to sign the contract first, and that'll help guide me towards that location quicker. We're looking all the way into 2025 for our main US mainline carrier now. Our schedule is full with them through January of 2025 now, so that eases a little bit of the financial burden and allows me to spend more time now focusing on expansion and how do we grow, but at the same time controlling the growth so we don't get too far over our skis and get in trouble. In grad school, our business cases were full of people who did too much too quick. We're going to grow, but we're going to grow slow. We're going to grow controlled, so we don't overcommit and lose our reputation of 100% on time, 100% quality.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great story. And Kelvin, if people want to continue to follow the story and follow the journey, I mean, what's the best way for people to connect?
LinkedIn is always. I think that's how we originally connected.
Absolutely.
LinkedIn is the easiest. I try to reply to every serious message on LinkedIn. We all get a little spam from time to time, but if you have questions, you want to pick my brain, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just, shoot me a quick note, say, hey, saw you on Mission Matters with Adam. Just got some questions, like to pick your brain. I'd love to help everyone that's been in our shoes. I don't mind giving, a little bit of my time for free advice to say, listen, here's a lesson I learned the hard way. Maybe you can avoid it. So.
Fantastic, man. Well, hey, we appreciate you over here, that's for sure, and we'll definitely put the Latitude Aero website and of course all the contact information in the show notes, and of course the book. Everybody watch and pick up a copy. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with the platform, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, and really, what motivates them, like what gets them up in the morning and fired up to go out into the marketplace in the world and to make a difference. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Kelvin, man, as always, pleasure working with you. I can't wait to the next time we get to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to the next time.